Make sure you ask questions. If you don't know, ask questions. My grandmother only finished 6th grade. World college debt is enormous. That I never really had a teacher who saw me. I wanted to step in and be their champion. I don't think that I chose teaching. I think that teaching chose me. It was just my calling. Teachers help to create other professions.
Hello and welcome to the Noble Fast podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Nogerbeck, and it's a pleasure to have with us on 7th of October 2023. We are coming to you live from the beautiful city of Astana, Kazakhstan, where the 6th annual Noble Fast is in full swing, as well as the Teachers Summit. On today's episode, we have the distinct privilege of hosting a truly exceptional guest, Dr. Кейшиа Торp, is an American teacher, and she won the Global Teacher Prize in 2021 for redesigning the 12th grade English curriculum to make it more relevant to immigrants and refugees. Кейшиа is doing, and her foundation is doing a U.S. Elite International, is doing an amazing job partnering with the Noble Fast and Binom schools, training Kazakhstani teachers. Кейшиа, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are, an established professional, and you have a truly U.S. national and in some way even global impact in terms of your profession. But before we will go on your today's successes and what you have achieved, can we start with how this all began?
So I do live in the United States by way of Jamaica. I am a Jamaican native. I was born in Jamaica. I was raised by my grandmother. My grandmother really imparted academic excellence on myself and my sister. I am a twin, and Dr. Trisha Thorpe is my sister. And she really imparted academic excellence. She really taught us the value of having an education. And we saw the impact of what illiteracy looked like because my grandmother only finished 6th grade. And so she really, really pushed how education can transform your life. And she made us imagine a future beyond what she could provide for us. And that was one of the reasons why, she's so near and dear to my heart. She's in heaven now, and I know that she's really proud of what we have become and how we have used our experiences to continue to push past the legacy of education on. I had an opportunity to, as I said, my grandmother demanded academic excellence. Not only that, but she demanded that we stayed in school and participated in whatever was happening in school to really build us as people, build our character and our gifts and talents. And we were track and field athletes. And I had an opportunity to use track and field to earn a scholarship to a U.S. college. Both my sister and I coming into the U.S. by ourselves and not necessarily having for the first time. Yes. As teenagers, and we are first generation students as well. We are first in our family to go to college. And so that was very important to us. And so as we came into the U.S., we had to navigate life on our own. Lucky for us, my grandmother also taught us how to persevere, how to be resilient, how to, one of the first things she's always told me, she's like, make sure you ask questions. If you don't know, ask questions. Yeah. And so we ask questions, and that's how we build a family of support around us. We reached out to people in our university, people in the community. We also found people from our Jamaica diaspora background, from even people who went to my high school. We were able to connect with them, and they had been a great source of support for us.
That is a truly inspirational story. I guess it was challenging to win a scholarship in a college in the United States from Jamaica.
Yes, not a lot of children get an opportunity to actually leave Jamaica. And I think when you think about low-income students, we have very limited opportunity. Jamaica, unlike the U.S., where I live now, they have challenges and barriers, and racism is one of them. In Jamaica, because I am Black, I don't necessarily have that kind of barrier. Yeah. But the barrier that I had in Jamaica was socioeconomic barrier, because I came from a poor background. I had very limited opportunities, very limited access, and very limited choices. And so, again, my grandmother taught us how to capitalize on your gifts and your talents, your God-given gifts. And so that's what we were able to do in order to really think about a future beyond where we were.
Well, that's really amazing. You're working very hard to transform lives of high schoolers in the United States, to help them to get access to higher education in the United States. Could you please share with us how this higher education experience changed and transformed your life?
Well, again, coming from a low-income background, I really saw the transformative power of having an actual degree, because it opened up so many doors of opportunity. They always say education is a key to success. It is not necessarily, I don't think college only is the key to success, just having a college degree, because they have a lot of people who are PhDs and still unemployed, right? Yeah. So, and still haven't lived out their full potential. Mm-hmm. But what I do know is that the ability to equip yourself with great knowledge allows you to it opens up a world of ideas, a world of information, a world of just knowing how the world works, knowing where opportunities lie, knowing how to navigate, knowing how to make responsible decisions, knowing how to open up doors for yourself where spaces were not necessarily created, especially because I'm a minority. So having that college degree really empowered me and allowed opportunities to open up for me. And so as a teacher, I try to do that for my students as well. I started from college. Yeah. The nonprofit organization my sister and I started, we started in college because, yes, we started it. We started it way back in college. I remember my second year in college, because of course the school that I came from, I was on the track and field team, and so when students realized that my sister and I had an opportunity to go to college, they reached out to us because we used to be their mentor, and these were younger athletes now are the senior athletes looking for opportunities like us. And so as we're trying to navigate the system, we're trying to bring together so much information and pulling resources together and figuring out the system so that we can actually be able to help them get the same experience and opportunities that we actually have. So
to our listeners who are tuning in and can see you for the first time,
yes.
Can you share with us about your foundation? What exactly does it do?
So U.S. Elite International, like I said, initially, how it was conceptualized, my sister and I really wanted to give back, and really, they say when you grow up in poverty, you have the responsibility and obligation of making sure that you share and bring someone with you. And so that's what we have done. While we were in college, we made sure that we connected with other coaches, connected with other colleges, so that the students who were on teams with us had the opportunity, and we did create that space and opportunity for some students. And then those students told other students, and other students told other students, and all of a sudden we had 20 students that we had to mentor in high school students. And these were high school students that were in Jamaica for college, yes. And then when they moved on to college, they told others their story, and the people who they were sharing their stories with were from other countries. And then we had students from Africa reaching out to us, and then we decided, okay, it's just two of us. We need to figure something out. So I took a nonprofit class in college. My sister also was a business major. And so together we brought our knowledge together and decided that we're going to start a nonprofit organization that we would be able to have other people join us in helping us to give these students an opportunity of a debt-free education. And of course, I'm not sure what Kazakhstan population looks like in terms of college debt, but I know that world college debt is enormous. And the U.S. has one of the largest college debt. And so, as a poor student, someone who's coming from a low income background, coming out of college with a degree and no debt, and it's almost like it transforms your life. It's you right. It gives you an opportunity to start all over. It's almost like someone took you out of everything that you were going through and gave you a whole fresh start and say, here's heaven, make of it what you will. And that's what I did.
That is truly amazing. But you're a teacher as well, right? Not only
Yes.
a founder of NGO. So, so let's talk a little bit about being a teacher. It's truly a noble profession, and you're here visiting a teacher summit. You're also helping to train Kazakhstani teachers, and you're partnering with the Binom schools as well. Before we will go to your Kazakhstani partnerships, why did you decide to become a teacher? Why do you think it's important?
So, growing up, I never really, I think I told this story a few times, that I never really had a teacher who saw me. I was that student, even though I worked hard, I was never seen. I don't know if my teacher even valued me. You know, I don't know. I don't have one teacher in mind who I remember came to me and told me I could succeed. And even when I was struggling in school, I've never had any teacher to take me under their wings and mentor me and encourage me and push me. However, because I joined track and field, I had one coach, John Messam, the late John Messam. He's gone to heaven now. But when he saw my sister and I athletic ability, that was the first time, as a poor student who was never thinking about college because you have no money for college, that was the first time I thought college was actually something that was attainable. And so once I got to college, like most people who come out of poor family, you're encouraged to be a lawyer, be a doctor, go to a profession that is high paying, strive for the stars, the moon, yes, the sky's the limit. And I never thought about being a teacher. And because I've never had a teacher to empower me, that would be the last thing I would want to do. When I got to college in Washington, D.C., I went to Howard University, and I actually saw the poverty around the White House, where everything is the epicenter of the world. And on the outlier, there was just abject poverty. And it reminds me, and violence and crime and everything. And it reminded me of where I was coming from. And I looked and I started volunteering at schools, at middle schools in the district during my free time in college. And I see that those students remind me of myself. And I see the limited resources, the lack of funding, the need for mentorship, the need for friendship, the need for empathy. They had so many needs that were not being met. And so I wanted to step in and be their champion. And that was when I actually went to college to study pre-law and was already right on track in doing that. And then after I graduated, I pivoted and I said, someone has to do something about this. And that's how I ended up being a teacher. And I always say to people that I don't think that I chose teaching. I think that teaching chose me. It was just my calling. And so I landed into it. It became my purpose, and it became my lifelong purpose.
Well, I think your students are very happy to have you, very lucky.
Thank you.
So let's jump into it. You're most famous for winning a Global Teacher Prize, one of the most competitive awards in the world.
Yes.
It's very prestigious. Can you tell a little bit about why the committee decided to choose you and how your life changed after that?
So I'm glad you asked that question, why the committee decided to choose me. And I think that they saw my body of work. I have been asked before that, I've been asked this question before. Did you know about the prize, and did you decide to do, your nonprofit organization, all the work that you are doing so that you can apply for the prize. And like I said to you earlier, our nonprofit started when I was in college and seeing the need, because I was one of those students who wished someone would have actually provided resources and access and opportunities for me. And so I wanted to be that. And so the prize is in, I think it's 7th, going into its 8th year. And so my nonprofit started before this prize was ever even conceptualized. However, I think this is such a great prize because teachers are so undervalued. We are so under-recognized. We are so undervalued to the point where we are the lowest paid profession. There has been research done by the Varkey Foundation and other agencies that shows that teaching is the profession that most people, it's at the bottom of the list. Because when surveys done to say what profession you would go into, no one wants to teach. And so, like you said, it's a noble profession. Yeah. So let's turn that word noble into Nobel. Yeah. Why do we have Nobel Prize laureates in science and physics? And where do you think those great innovators and inventors, where did you think it started? It started with that one teacher, right? Teachers help to create other professions, right? So we are the leaders, but at the end of the day, we are the most undervalued. And I think that's one of the things I love about the Varkey Foundation, who partnered with UNESCO to recognize teachers who are doing great work across the board. And not just for students who are abled, but really and truly focus on teachers who are doing the work with vulnerable population of students and changing and transforming their lives to make sure that they have a better and a fair chance of living a great life for themselves and changing their whole, for me, education ultimately will change the trajectory of my family. I'm the first in my family to go to college. And so really the position that I'm in, I've already started the pace of breaking that generational cycle. And that's what we want to do for students. We want to give them opportunities to the point where they can provide for themselves, provide for their family, and also provide for their future. Teachers with the Varkey, and one of the things that the Varkey Foundation does is they added value to the profession, not just by highlighting the teachers' stories, but by making the prize $1 million. And what that does is it really puts you in a position to give you a seat at the table, not because a seat at the table makes you look better or feel better, but a seat at the table means that you get an opportunity to be a part of the decision-making process for your students. Your teacher, you're on the front line of education, but so many times we have people in politics and business and different disciplines who never enter into a classroom or a school building that are making policies and legislation that impacts education and our students directly every day. And so with the prize comes the opportunity for teachers to be more involved in that decision-making process.
You know, the fact that you won that award is amazing. But what is which is more inspiring, from my perspective, is not some awards or not this or other things. For me, the most inspiring thing about your journey is that you yourself, with your own will, you won that grant to the U.S. university. Then you started an NGO, but most importantly, the work you're currently doing to help the vulnerable minorities in the United States. And for our listeners, I would like to provide a little bit of context that in the United States, it's very difficult to get into university.
Yes, very.
A lot of American citizens, especially from the
African American community,
African American
and the
community.
Hispanic community. Yes.
They have challenges of getting
Yes.
into university, so it's a huge problem in the United States right now.
And they've also just got rid of affirmative action, which was one of the first policies that allowed African American students to be able to study with their counterparts in colleges. And so when we think of how that's going to reverse the cycle of, or the trajectory of the life that our already marginalized group of students, and how it sets them back 10 paces, and how even with affirmative action, we still had to work twice as hard to be able to achieve the same things as our counterpart. Now it's as if you're telling students, don't even dream anymore, don't even hope anymore, don't even try anymore, because it doesn't matter, but you're not going to be able to achieve that dream. And I think that's where teachers come in, because we carry those dreams for them. We help them to self-actualize. We help them to actualize those dreams. And for those who can't actualize it in the moment, we carry it for them until they can do so for themselves. We are the ones that are advocates for them. We are activists. We're joining grassroots organizations. We're going to board meetings. We're going to any space that we can, and consistently advocating for equitable spaces and education and funding and grant. So many things that teachers, that not necessarily all the time will help just students, but help to make the teacher's job in now helping students to navigate going to college actually a lot easier.
That's really great. Let's talk about students themselves, high school students. So is it only about technically preparing them for the subject matters? Or is it about something else, about inspiration, belief, their family situation, their background on the streets? What kind of challenges do you face when you're trying to reach out to those students?
So let's take it back to the reason why the United Nations have SDG for making sure that they are able to provide quality and equitable education for all students. So, when you look at the United Nations, the United States, which is the more wealthy country, and then you look at developing countries, people may think that the things that occur in places like Africa, or some of the challenges I had growing up in Jamaica, does not happen in a wealthy country like the U.S. But that is far from the truth, right? I teach immigrants and refugee students, and they come from some of the most marginalized neighborhoods. They're coming with, and not just immigrants and refugees, but African American students, and even some Caucasian students. They come from poor families where they experience trauma, they experience abandonment. Some of them are homeless. They've gone through very adverse childhood experiences that they take into the classroom, that teachers have to make sure that they're prepared to handle, or schools have to prepare. And then we find out that our most vulnerable population of students go to schools that are poorly resourced and underfunded. So it's almost as if, like I said earlier, they don't see a way out for themselves, because they don't think anyone cares enough to invest in them.
Your story,
yes,
can inspire them, right?
Yes, because I always tell my students, as an immigrant, I'm a representation of the American dream, that if you work hard, if you persevere, if you dedicate yourself to something, if you commit to something and you work hard, no one can deny you those opportunities. So I always push my students and tell them that, not all of my students are going to choose to go to college, but I want them to make sure that when they leave my classroom, they have a college plan or they have a career plan, but do not leave my classroom without a plan.
Well, your students, I would like to repeat it again. They're very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
So that you can guide them to the college of their dreams. Our final and I think the most important question for today will be about your participation, your activities in Kazakhstan. So your foundation, U.S. Elite International, is an important partner for the Nobel Fest.
Yes.
You're also partnering with the Milllion schools to train Kazakhstani teachers. So let's go over detail about what did you discuss on the teacher summit today, on the Nobel Fest yesterday, and in terms of what did you do in terms of partnering with Milllion schools?
So we understand that education is transitioning, especially since COVID, and the platform of education has changed a lot. And so as teachers, we are constantly finding ways to upskill ourselves, to bring in modern technology, modern skills, pedagogy, evidence-based practices into the classroom, because if we are to prepare the students for the future, we have to make sure that we skill ourselves in a way to prepare them for even careers that are not even thought of. And so we want to make sure that as teachers, we bring that to the classroom for our students. So last year, I attended Nobel Fest, and I realized that I was among other Nobel Prize winners who are physicists and engineers, and most of them are from the scientific field, and I realized I was like the only teacher. Yeah. And so I brought that to the attention of the Nobel Fest organizers, and luckily, we were all thinking the same way, and we all decided that we will, U.S. Elite had already created what we call the Global Education Teacher Summit, which is a project that my sister, Dr. Thorpe, and I developed as a way to help students achieve equitable and equal education and get quality education. And what better way to do that than making sure that teachers themselves have the facility to teach what students actually need. And so we partnered to do the Global Education Teacher Summit. We did it in Jamaica earlier in January this year, and we had raving reviews. Our framework really works, and teachers really responded to that level of training. And so we wanted to bring that here. So we thought about different things that the population of teachers here would really want to know. And we, with the team, we did our needs assessment, and we came up with 3 different areas: teacher training on pedagogy, inclusion, because of course, Kazakhstan is one of the most diverse countries in the world in terms of population and religion. And we also wanted to feature STEM, thinking about how to train teachers in new technology and different skill-based levels that they can learn to bring that back into their classroom to help their students. So we've teamed up with Nobel Fest to have the Global Education Teacher Summit and Binom Schools, and we've had the greatest experience over the last 2 days, and today we're going to finish up at all together at Nobel Fest and Teacher Summit at the Presidential Museum. And we have a great lineup of international speakers, and the international speakers that U.S. Elite International have brought on our team are all Global Teacher Prize ambassadors. So they are either the top teacher in their country, and they're also a part of the Varkey Foundation Global Ambassador Teachers, top 10 or top 50. And also we have Ranjit Desale, who is from India, who was the winner before myself. He was the Global Teacher Prize winner 2020, and I was 21.
Well, that's that's really beautiful. The fact that you decided to come over to Kazakhstan and share your expertise. Well, unfortunately, our time is up, and I hope to see you next year.
I do hope so.
I hope that we can continue this conversation next year in the same studio. And thank you for coming, and good luck.
Thank you so much for having me.